All right, everybody. Good morning. And today we're going to be doing Chumash today, continuing at the end of Parshas Bamidbar. And it looks like today, hopefully, by the end of the class, we should complete all the psukim left in Parshas Bamidbar. As you see on my screen here, the last pasuk is pasuk Nun Aleph. And the last time I was out, I recorded a video explaining the translations for these psukim. Um, I would like you to please, if you didn't yet listen to that video, listen to both this one and that one. It's still, if you listen to both, much less time than having a 45-minute plus period with me. I think each video is about 10 to 15 minutes. So you will still have plenty of free time to relax, but you must complete these two videos. So in order to possibly know what we're talking about in Chumash and be ready for any tests that are coming up shortly after winter break. So with the upcoming, with on page 17, if you look on page 17, we had 4 psukim that we translated together. And if you have done it in class, when I asked you to make sure that you had the translations, so you should have those translations already written in. There's no reason you shouldn't have those translations for pasuk mem, mem aleph, mem beis, and mem gimel. It's all on page 17 in the blue in your green packets. Now, if you're looking on my screen, I'm actually pulling up page 17 so you can see what I'm talking about. We today are going to spend time not necessarily on translations, but more so on the content. We hadn't had an opportunity on Wednesday because Rabbi Bernstein, bless his soul, is giving you guys a little bit of a break as well as the Rebbeim to teach us Midos Monday on Wednesday. So if you look on page 17, today we're going to spend time content-based questions. So the first question asks, how many species of animals does it even matter at all if it's a firstborn? Because if you notice, Pasuk Mem Aleph, all it said was that you shall take for yourselves a Levi animal in place of the firstborn, all right, regular firstborns animals. And that's who you're going to replace, not only the people, but their animals. So it didn't specify. So if you look in the art scroll Chumashim, there's actually notes on the bottom and different Perushim. They actually explain the real only significant animal that we have to worry about is actually one. So if you look at this question, it says, how many species of animals does it even matter? The answer is one, really. I mean, we'll get into a little bit in a second. But the real answer is donkey. The answer is donkey. In parentheses, I would actually put the following. In parentheses, I want you to put in something, actually, right after you say donkey, the next question asks you that there are firstborn animals that are special and need to be offered as a carbon. That's different. They don't necessarily need to be firstborn redemptions. That might be the donkey. However, there are firstborn animals that are going to become what's carbon bechor, a carbon that needs to be brought to Hashem as a firstborn animal. You are not able to benefit from that animal. It is actually for Hashem. And so the animals that are responsible for you to bring as a korban are sheep, goats, and cattle. These are the domesticated farm animals, basically. These animals are responsible if they have a baby. The firstborn is going to be brought to Hashem as a korban. Now, what does that teach us about farming? What does that teach us about Hashem's mitzvos? That there's such a commandment that you have to bring a carbon bechor, even though it's just an animal, right? You can't use the animal that was firstborn. So the answer to that question is as follows: Hakadosh Baruch Hu creates the world, and it's very simple. It's very easy for a farmer, for a person that works very, very hard, and sees results from his hard work. It's very easy for that farmer to actually get lost in his own feeling that he's doing everything. To get into the feeling where I'm responsible if this animal succeeds or is healthy. I'm responsible if this crop grows, if the corn is ripe, if my grain grows high. I'm responsible for all that stuff. And actually, the truth is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really responsible for all that. He's helping you. And so there's different commandments and mitzvos, just like we learned in the video in Torah Live. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us commandments, not for him, but it's for us. Hashem only wants one thing, and that's to have a relationship with us. He put us here only so that we can have a connection with him in this world, because our Yetzer Hara wants us not to. And so that he created us with the Yetzer Hara so that we can have a connection with Hashem, a meaningful connection. We can fight against something. If it was so easy, it wouldn't be as meaningful. So Hashem put in different mitzvos, one of which is Shemitah. This year we're talking about Shemitah in Eretz Yisrael. It's a sabbatical from the land, the Yovel years. These are years where the crops are not able to be touched. They're hefker. Why should that be? Shouldn't that be detrimental to a farmer's business? The answer is Akash Baruch Hu is using mitzvahs to remind us that he controls the world. Human beings can do whatever they want. But if you don't, you can prepare the soil, you can plow, you can plant, you can even fertilize, and you can take care of the land. But if there's no rain in the world and there's a drought, then there's no way your plants will grow. You always need a Kosh Baruch Hu. And so when a person has a baby cow, because they take care of their cows, they take care of their cattle, take care of their sheep, and they're able to take care of them healthily, and they procreate, and they multiply, and they have more sheep and more sheep, it's easy to get lost and forget and think that you're responsible for the growth of your wealth. You see, Yaakov Avinu was rich only because he took all the sheep from Lavan. He took all the stripes and speckled sheep because he was so rich. And the Torah says, why was he rich? He had all the cattle and sheep. There was a lot of money in animals back then. Now it's all in technology, but there's a lot of money in animals, and therefore it is actually essential that Akash Baruch Hu gave us a mitzvah called Pidyon Aben, redeeming the firstborn, or for example, Carbon Bechor, bringing a carbon of the first animal. You're not allowed to use it. It's for Hashem. These are solely to remind us that we can have a relationship with Hashem. Not everything is because of us. In fact, the opposite, everything is from Hashem. And so the answers to this one here, which animal is one? This one, name them, is a donkey, and which firstborn animals are responsible for a carbon? That's sheep, goat, and cattle. Next question asks, if one of the carbon type firstborn animals develops a mum, what happens? The idea is usually a mum is not able to be brought as a carbon. It's not able to be brought as a carbon, and so I would leave that as a potential question of discussion for when we return together. The next question asks, what is the law for redeeming a firstborn donkey? So it's actually interesting. The law that is determined there in the Perushim and in the notes in the article Chumash is that one has to use non-kodesh sheep that are given as a gift to a kohen. That's how you redeem a firstborn donkey. You use non-hegdish, non-sanctified animals, a sheep, and you can give it to a kohen as a gift in redemption for your firstborn bechor donkey. The next question we're going to skip for now. We may return to it, but what is done if it is not? That's a discussion for another time. A lot of this idea, well, actually, we're gonna start from what is done to it if it is not redeemed. We may start with that maybe on Friday, or maybe if we get to it next week before break. But the interesting idea that I wanted to put home today on this page was, until this point, what was the significance of these firstborn karbanos? In these psukim, it mentions briefly the idea that a carbon behema, or like a bechor, needs to be redeemed. A behema, an animal, needs to be redeemed, not only people. And so it's important for us to realize that not only the mitzvahs are for our human beings to do, but even for our animals, to realize that Hashem controls not only human life, so to speak, but also animals. The next part here, this is I asked you to do in the last video. So again, please, I know some of you didn't do it because I could see who submitted it, and I check your notes. Please make sure, if you didn't listen to last video, it's like 10 minutes. Just listen to how I instructed you to be able to match these. The answer, and I'll just say it quickly now, the way to match these is if you look through the psukim, and it's posted in the Merkava link that I gave on Google Classroom, it'll bring you to this list. You're looking through the psukim from Mem Gimel, I believe, not even really from Mem Dalet or so, like Mem Hey, Kachas Alabim Tachas Galor. So Pasuk's Mem Vav even. Sorry, Mem Vav. Ves Peduye Hashloshas with 5 psukim. Mem Vav, Mem Zayin, Mem Ches, Mem Tes, Nun Aleph. These psukim have all the words from this particular matching. So Peduye, Shlosha, these are easy words. Peduye, redemption. Shlosha is number 3. Shivim is 70. Like, very simple translations. I may not know all of them, but if you can look in the psukim from Mem Vav to Nun Aleph, just go through them. Merkava might even be too hard because it gives you a bunch of translations together. Safari might be even easier, and I posted that too, the link there too. You should please take a look so you can match them together. I will be checking tomorrow if you match them up, and you will get 100 if you did, and you will unfortunately get a 0 if you didn't. The next question asks, that this is what we briefly spoke about last time. is that if you really counted up the Levium, it was a different number than the amount of Bechor. So let's go through it. How many Levium were available to be redeemed as firstborns? The answer is 22,000. The Torah clearly says that there were 22,000 Levium. There were 22,000 Levium. I want to show you that in the Psukim. 22,000 Levium. And how many Bechors were there? It says Shnayim ve'esrim elef shlosha v'shivim masayim. There were 22,273 Bechors. So if you look at the question number 2, question number 1 says how many Levium were there? 22,000. And how many firstborns were needed to be redeemed by a Levi because they lost their job? So a Bechor needed to be redeemed for a Levi. There were 22,273. So you need to write here on first one was 22,000. And the next line, how many firstborns was 22,273. The third question says take 1 and 2 and subtract 22,273 subtracted by 22,000 asks you how many more firstborns than Levium were there. The answer was 273. There were 273 Bechors that did not have a Levi counterpart to be redeemed for. That's who needed to use the 5 shekel coins. Those 273 Levium. So the next question asks, when we counted up the total Levium a couple of days ago, we actually came out that there was 22,300. There were 300 more than the Torah said there were at the end. How come the Torah didn't include them later when it said the total number of Levium? It only said 22,000. But if you count up Gershon, Kosim, Merari, 22,300 is Yoga. So what happened to those 300? The answer is, and I think Tzvi Shell pointed this out beautifully, and it's quoted in Rashi, so Tzvi, you should be very proud of yourself. I forget, it was me on that side. Be very proud of yourself when you're Mechavi, when you can think of the same thing Rashi thought of in the early 1000s. Literally lived in the year 1000, Rashi. Rishomi Yitzchaki. And he was such a brilliant person, and he literally felt like he didn't live so long. And he spent his whole life writing on every piece of Torah. And it's an unbelievable thing when you're able to Mechavi in 2021. A 6th grader is thinking the same way Rashi did. He's probably one of the smartest people in the world at the time, for sure. So Rashi writes, the 300 Levium are not counted. They went down to 22,000 because those Levium were firstborns. So they had to cancel themselves out anyway. And since that Levi was a firstborn, they needed to be redeemed as a firstborn, but they were also a Levi, so it canceled each other out, so we don't even need to include them in the count. So Rashi explains, he also picked up on that. Where did the 300 go? The answer is they were redeeming themselves. And so there were 273 more Bechors than there were Levium. So if you count up 273, and each one of those 273 Bechors needed to give 5 shkalim coins, what was the total amount of money collected? So you have to do simple math. Take out a calculator. What's 273 times 5? The answer is, and you got it, 1,000. I'm not going to give it to you. I'll give you a minute to try it. 273 times 5. The answer is 1,365. That was the amount of shkalim that were collected that day. And where did that money go? It went to Aaron Ubanov, and just as Hashem said, so you can see in the end of those psukim, it says, "V'nasata es hakesef le'Aaron u'levanov." Moshe Rabbeinu gave to Aaron and his children, and vayitein Moshe kesef abudim le'Aaron u'levanov. Moshe did give the kesef to Aaron and his children, just as al pi Hashem, as Hashem said, kasher tziva Hashem has commanded. So we see from here that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe to do something, and he did it. That's also a very valuable lesson. Moshe would never, ever, chas v'shalom, go against what Hashem said. So it's very important to realize that those people who were extra, firstborns, 273 of them, were redeemed for 5 shkalim coins, and that's how we get to 1,365 shkalim that were collected, that were given to Aaron and his children as presents. The last thing we're going to do, and that, I'm going to save this for the next time where we meet together in person, which will hopefully be tomorrow or Monday. We're going to do these 2 Rashis together and translate them. That's going to be for them. If you want to get a head start, be my guest, try to read through them. Yehuda Batzvi will lead that translation chabura in the corner. You help me to do it with him for extra credit for free hundreds and prizes. I'll give it to you if you do it in advance. But I'll leave it to those questions. These questions over here, these 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions we just did. And on the previous page on 17, we did the middle few questions about donkey and the firstborn karbanos. Those are going to be the ones that are responsible from this video. And I appreciate everybody listening. And please make sure if you didn't do the matching and the translations, we did the Mem, Malf, Mem Beis, and Mem Gimel in class on Tuesday or Wednesday. Please make sure that you must get those translations in, and make sure you're listening or reading these, getting these matching. Make sure they have matching. A lot of them you know already, so please make sure you're looking at the Merkava link that I posted, trying to figure out what these words possibly mean. And with that, I bid you adieu. Please have a great day. And I did post other work for Navi class, so please make sure that you're being respectful and responsible. Please don't anyone get into trouble. And I really appreciate everybody trying to work when Rebbe's not here. And I thank you, every one of you, and I pray for each one of you to be healthy and happy. And please give the sub proper respect and kavod as they deserve. And I hope to see you tomorrow.